tips. Next, we will have a panel discussion that will be headed by Keith Mulligan, who is the Director of Alumni Relations here at Southern Wesleyan University. I'm going to turn that piece over to him, and he will take us to the next phase of the screening for today. If you'll give him a hand as he comes up.
So I'm going to invite the panelists up here, and everybody can take a couple of seconds to stand up and stretch. Consider this the brief intermission. So if the panelists can come up, we'll go ahead and get started in just a minute. What now? If you've got a card that you filled out, if you hold that up, Jared will come around and get that. Oh, right.
Does anyone need a pen?
I think that was what.
Is Josh Shepard available? If Josh Shepard is here, please come to the front.
See it anywhere? Hey, everybody, go ahead and have a seat. We're going to go ahead and get started.
Break up the woman thing.
So we're going to open it up in just a few minutes. We are going to open it up because the goal here today is just create conversation. As Karen said, I'm Heath Mulligan, Director of Alumni Relations. I've been a youth pastor, a pastor. I have 3 children, and they have selected me for this because I am the poster child for a cell phone addiction.
Yes.
And like I own that. Like they did not bring me in. Heath, you're the expert on. No, I'm not I'm like, don't do what I have done. So we want to create just a great conversation. So first thing I want to let you know, if you go to screenagersmovie.com, they have a lot of great resources at their website that you go. They have a parent guide, which has a lot of different apps and things you can download that can help you manage your kids' screen time. So screenagersmovie.com.
So we're supposed to do that on our cell phone?
Yeah, you can do that right now. You're not going to offend me. You're not going to offend me at all. I kept up. I checked my phone 7 times during the movie. But it was because Jared was texting me about what we're doing after the movie. So let's introduce our panel, and then we'll get some comments from them. Hannah Dennis is a sophomore here at Southern Western University. Works as an intern with the Center for Teaching Excellence. Everyone give Hannah. Next, we have Chris and Lisa Williams. Chris is the athletic director here at Southern Western University. They homeschool their kids. So Lisa also teaches some online classes for Southern Western University, and it's great to have them with us today. And then we also have Josh Bolster with us. He's also an affiliate faculty member here at Southern Wesleyan. He's the teaching pastor at DCF, Downtown Community Fellowship in Clemson. It's great to have Josh with us today. So before we get into the discussion, there's just one thing that I want to point out that was in the movie that when we screened it, I said, wait a minute, they got this story wrong. So there's this part in the movie where they show the girls at the baseball game. Does everybody remember that? This was a big news story. I don't know if you remember this, because what was going on that the announcers didn't know about it. They were actually doing a contest in the stadium to send a picture in with a hashtag. So all these girls are just doing what the stadium's asking them to do, and these announcers just went on for like 3 hours about, these kids aren't paying attention to the baseball game. But what does that say? You go to a baseball game, and it's not about the baseball game. It's about, all this other stuff. So I got like 3 pages of notes here, so I gotta make sure we get them all. Let's start with you, Hannah, because you're the closest person to me, and the youngest on our panel. As you're watching this, and this is your second time watching this movie with us, what were some of the things that kind of went through your mind? Like, were you somebody? Did your parents did they let you have technology early, or did some of this resonate with you, or was this like, no, I don't really have an issue with this?
I kind of relate to the older generation, I think. I don't know why, I just always have. But my parents did allow me to have technology when I was younger. But it wasn't as big to me as it was to my brother. I think boys maybe are just more inclined to play games and stuff like that. But when I watched this movie, I did agree with a lot of it. And I think that technology is not the problem. It's just learning how to manage it well. And that's what my parents tried to teach me. Technology isn't what's bad. It's just how you use it, I think, which was the overarching theme of this whole movie pretty much.
Yeah. Chris and Lisa, for those of the audience who don't know you guys, how many kids do you guys have?
Too many.
The answer is 5.
5. Yeah. So some of the questions in the movie, like how old were your kids?
Whoops.
What's it been like homeschooling your kids and trying to manage the technology thing? Like how old were your kids when you started letting them have some screen time?
I think we've had a pretty conservative perspective on screen time, and I think because we have homeschooled, we've been able to manage that a little easier than perhaps families that haven't had the opportunity to homeschool. But at the same time, kids push every limit, and our kids certainly have done that. I think the biggest thing is we've tried to look at our family as a whole and make some decisions based on what we would all hope for, and then look at each kid as an individual and see where they're at developmentally, just where they fall on that spectrum of really wanting to be involved with social media, gaming. It was really individualized for our kids, and I think we're still trying to keep that pace, even though some of them are now adults. We still have a couple younger guys coming up and through, and that looks really different than it did for ours that are grown, just because of the fact that it's changing so quickly and there's so many more things available to them. But I think we've tried to be consistent as a family, yet look at everybody as an individual.
So real quick, how many of you in the room today are parents? Raise your hand if you're a parent. All right, let's break that down. How many of you have children 5 and under? If you have children 5 and under, raise your hand. All right, 6 to 12. How many of you have 6 to 12? That gloriously easy age of 6 to 12. And then 13 to 18. How many of you have 13 to 18-year-olds? And yeah, that's it's all easy. This is all
45-year-old.
45. Yeah, how many of you have children 18 and older? You can't get out of the house. Yeah, so that's yeah. So this is, listen, I don't think any of us have the answers. We're all just trying to work through this and do our best. Josh, let me ask you. This is something, you know, we're dealing with as pastors in the church. How has technology maybe shaped some of your ministry, but have you noticed like how it's affecting maybe people's lives that you're ministering to?
Yeah, I think that our church has uses technology wisely. I don't see too many people texting during teaching or anything. In fact, we have a lot of good like note takers. But something that's changed from like me growing up when I did was that everybody exchanges telephone numbers or cell numbers. You know, like when I was growing up, like your best friend, you got their phone number, or like your girlfriend, like their phone number. So people just exchanged phone numbers very easily now, and that's taken like a little bit for me to get over, because now so much communication happens over text. Like people won't really respond to emails. You know, it's
Right.
It's text. So I have to get over myself and just get right almost on the first meeting, or certainly by the second, you know, can I have your number? This is uncomfortable for me to say, but so I can text with them and we can be in dialogue, and then integrate people into the community. So that's one thing. But I was thinking about like the desire, maybe a reflection I've had is like maybe a desire to be omnipresent. You know, like there are some, to get theological, a lot of attributes of God that are communicable attributes, but some are not communicable attributes, incommunicable attributes. God being all-knowing, all-present, all-powerful. And it seems like the ambitions online or through apps or through digital technology, we want to strive for those things, you know, and so that keeps us like not sleeping at night, because we have to be there for our friend when they have a crisis, which is like always. And we, you know, knowledge is power. And so we want to be all powerful, and knowing is power. So, you know, like maybe really it is God who should just be those almies and not us. And so then what does that say about like maybe being present where we are, you know, and something like the Eucharist, communion, is just the very real presence of God, of Jesus, present, you know, with us. But then also I think about like the overlapping of the ages, the kingdom of God that is already and not yet, and how that might be a dialogue partner with the digital reality, the virtual reality, and then like the physical realities that we have. Like people are living two lives, like in the digital reality, and then in the physical reality. And there's always like escaping to one or the other at convenient times, but Jesus being outside of time again, like comes incarnated in human flesh. Jesus doesn't come as an avatar. He comes in flesh and blood, being outside of time, but coming inside of time to be present with us. So yeah, maybe like the whole kingdom of God, overlapping of the ages, digital thing can all be in conversation. Not to be dualistic, but to be holistic.
Some of you said, maybe we're spending so much time wanting to be omnipresent, we're not even monopresent. We're not even present in the moment. So if your kids have VR devices, anybody have that? Oh, I'm the only one. Great, that's awesome. So you know what the most popular game my son plays is? VR chat. You know what it is? Sit around a table and talk. You put on a VR headset, and because I will like hear my son talking, it's like, oh, well, and up later just talking about their day and all this kind of stuff and telling jokes, and I'm like, what is going on? I mean, you can also play Darth Vader with the game, which is what I got it for. One of the things they said in the movie is that kids spend an average of 6.5 hours a day on screen, not including homework or classroom work. How many of you think, oh, I think that's really low. I think the number is actually much higher than that. That's not even as good. Right. So how many of you think it's much higher than 6? Yeah.
I want to go off of that. I'm not as deep as he is, certainly. But to also go off of this is that the movie really was 95% about kids and students. But yet we all model to our students exactly what we're ticked off about.
Right.
And as soon as the movie was done, everybody went like this with their phone. Or even some of y'all in here were checking your phone. I did.
He did.
She yelled at me. So I'll say this too, that I'll give a little props to my kid, Seth, who didn't want a phone and felt like, why do I need one? That is abnormal because the rest of our kids all think they deserve one, which we will not buy them one. So I think there's students, in particular, a lot of our students here now that are coming in who are searching for being present. And they are turning their phones off. I'm seeing them do that. So I think there's a little bit too much negativity towards our students, and a little bit needs to be pointed to us. How many of us sit in a meeting and the first thing you do is you put your phone on it straight up. And then we all complain in classrooms and go, I can't believe they're not looking at me and paying attention. Well, we do the same thing in meetings. We all do it. But yet we get upset not with our counterparts who are leading it, we get upset with the student. And so I'm going to push on that a little bit. I know that's something I've had to work on at home because I think I'm attached to this 24/7. In fact, it's caused a great deal of anxiety in my life. So how do we model that better? How do I model that better? I don't always need to be available.
Yes, sir, right there in the back.
I think something too, I saw it in myself, and I think it's a tendency. We encourage our kids to put down their phones, get off the computers, and all so forth. Let's come and do something together as a family, and that something sometimes was watch television. And it is interesting to me that a generation ago, the big concern was how much time we were spending watching TV. It is fascinating now that that's almost a relief to get kids to do that instead of being on their phone or on the computer. But really, it's one and the same. It's an electronic screen. And it becomes, I think, more difficult to get a handle on how much time we're spending from the screen when we use television. And again, Chris, you were talking about computers ourselves. Many of us spend a lot of time in front of the TV. And now we can even, on our iPads, take it into bed with us and watch TV there, and our phones and so forth. It has become seamless and ubiquitous. And there are scary things here.
How many of your, oh yeah, right there.
And just to go on a little bit more, the same with how we buy video games. You have to be 18 to buy integrated video games, but all our 8 gaming access. Your parents buy them.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. How many of your kids ever say, it's probably just mine, how many of your kids ever say that they're bored? Anybody's kids say they're bored? If you had told 15-year-old Heath Mulligan that he would be able to carry a device around with him, not in one place, carry it with me, I'd have an access to like 75% of the movies and TV shows ever made, all of human knowledge, or excuse me, all of human information. So when we were watching a movie the other night, and there was like a brand of, it was Home Alone 3, that great Christmas classic. And while we're watching it, my son is on his phone because he's like, oh, I recognize this person. It's like, oh, that's Scarlett Johansson, and he's on his phone like, and he saw this brand of the toy car, and he's like Googling that. He's like, oh, Dad, they discontinued that in 1995 is when that, and I'm like, yeah, it's crazy. Maybe my kid's the only one that does that. So 6.5 hours a day. How many of you have an iPhone that has the screen time app on it? And how many of you, like me, would confess that you're way over 6.5 hours? Okay, just me. So let's ask this question. So the goal today is not to really find answers. This is the second time I've seen this movie. I'm wrestling so hard with this, with my 3 kids. Wrestling so hard. So the question is, how much time is enough? How much time should, not just kids, but how much time should all of us be spending on a screen? What do you think is a good answer to that? How many of you could not do your job without a screen? Whether it's phone, computer. How many of you do some sort of work with social media? And you have to post stuff and share stuff. And so we're at this point where we're just like that. The film, they had a study where baby mice were exposed to screen time, and that these baby mice developed fewer cells in the areas of their brain where learning and memory were developed. I think they were trying to say that's true for humans too. Does anybody disagree with that study? You remember the scientists talking about that? What they saw in mice? Why is it mice that they always, I guess they just have a lot of mice or whatever. The young lady that mentioned violent video games. How many of you think violent video games definitely desensitize kids to things? How many of you would admit, I played a violent video game this week? You don't have to raise, yeah, some people. How many of your kids, they talk, one of the kids was playing Minecraft. Anybody have kids that play Minecraft? What about the newer one? I guess it's not new anymore. Fortnite? Fortnite's not addictive at all, is it? Fortnite is, if you don't know what Fortnite is, it's like they combine the shooting games with Minecraft, and it's like they're taking over the world. All right, how many of you allow video games in your house, but not violent games? All right, so what kind of game, if you allow, what kind of games are your kids playing? What kind of games are your kids play?
They play like the 2K games, like NFL and
Sports
NBA,
games.
yeah.
Sports games. Yeah. There's somebody else over here. What kind of games are your kids? How many of your kids play sports games on their computer device, whatever? Yeah. So there's a lot of different things. How many of you, the young girl on here said that she wanted a phone so she could look busy? How many of you ever, this is not the heat, don't be mad, this is, have you experienced people using screens to avoid face-to-face interactions? Anyone ever done that? Anyone ever done that themselves, right? I had a friend one time and she had gotten, this is back when you had the cell phone, it not only flipped open, you had to pull the antenna up. And she would just be in the grocery store and pull her phone out, start talking. And so we were at lunch one day over at the cafeteria and I said, that's a pretty cool phone. Like, how long have you had it? She's like, oh, it's not real. I said, what? She's like, it's not a real phone. Like, you're talking to it all the time. She's like, no, I just don't want to talk to people. It's like, so you're just walking around. She's like, I just thought it was cool. I'm like, I did not ask her out on a date. Here's a hard one, okay?
Using the phone.
What now?
She stopped using the phone there for that because you did this around.
Well, that's probably true. Do you ever make comments online that you wouldn't make in person? Anybody ever post anything that you deleted online? Just me? You got, yeah.
Yeah, one comment I think is interesting when you're talking about the TV versus phone. I think one of the things phones have done, they've made things individualized. So like, there's something about watching TV together that, and I think phones can actually do that. So there's a positive and a negative. So I hear what you're saying, where politically we can almost be desensitized and say whatever we want to online if we can take it to an extreme. The other side of that is some students actually verbalize things they don't know how to say face to face. Or if I get some of my girls that are younger and say, hey, meet this person and talk to them, there'll be a really awkward interchange. But if you said, hey, go play video games together, they'll build a conversation and build a friendship a lot quicker actually around that. But it's more group than individualized. So for me, there's a conversation about TVs when they become on your phones and they become individualized, usually. But I think TVs and phones, when they are done in groups, can actually be a communal thing that can actually build relationships as well.
Which is kind of like the whole Fortnite thing too, because that is very communal to hear your kids and their friends conversing, and it's almost like they're all in the same room. They're not, but it is communal.
Yeah. Mike?
And I think that's true, but the depersonalization of the process is there. And so we all have that one friend with no mental filter who will say whatever comes to mind. I think the technology is so easy to use, the communication aspect, that it removes the filter. There's no person to look at. It comes to mind, we text it or type it in Facebook, and there it is. And once it's there, it's there.
Yeah, that's right.
The other side of that is when you got teenagers who are freaking scared. And that's what I'm doing. I got kids who are so much easier to get up on the phone and say that they want to play with their friends, but yet they would refuse to go to the drive-through or something because they don't want to talk to them. They don't know what to say. And that's a problem we're facing with how to address teenagers. Get to the place where they're absolutely afraid. Now I've got a 21-year-old who's needing to make chocolate or something. She's asking me, well, she's asking me all these questions. I'm like, hey, it's okay. Ask them that question. They'll give you an answer. You don't need to be afraid of asking that question. And that's something that concerns me with technology. We now have children who are afraid.
Right. Like sometimes your kids don't, like, they want some extra ranch at McDonald's and they don't even want to go up and ask for ranch. Like, I mean, serious. Like, they think, like, what do you think they're gonna do? What are they gonna do to you? Like, they're not gonna make you go back there and cook. Like, just ask them for ranch. They're gonna say yes or no, you know? We're living in really hard times. So let me encourage you. Like I said, I've seen this twice. I'm wrestling with it. And if you leave here wrestling, that's good. Yes, Dave.
One of the things I think I'm really concerned about is things like Snapchat. And My son Stephen is a youth pastor, and he was here over break with us, and we were talking about this. And he said that he has kids who are trying to get him to put all of his announcements on Twitter or Snapchat because kids watch that more. Or maybe not Twitter, but Snapchat or something else.
Instagram.
Because kids are on there more. And he says, I am not going there. I'm not going to do that. For one thing, the impact that Snapchat could have on my ministry. Somebody send me something. But anyway, in the process of talking about this, and I don't know where he got the statistic, I'd love to be able to give that, but I can't. But he said that somewhere he had seen research or statistics that 50% of the girls and a huge percent of the guys too have sent a sexually explicit picture to someone else on Snapchat.
This is something that, you know, we've had friends, you know, friends of my girls involved with that, and it spreads like wildfire. It's very viral. Yes.
I just was gonna just mention, we talked about, or there was mention of using their time wisely. So I do think it's important where we, you mentioned about the girl who talked about having a phone system that's busy. Like we all chuckled, but that's a reality in our kids, which is the scary part. So I like how they talked about just setting boundaries as a family and really coming to grips with what's, just what's safe in your family and coming together as a family to do that. So I was really encouraged. I love the turnout. This was really encouraging to me to know that we're not even alone. I love that.
So I'm gonna go off of that is, I think it's just simple things, but yeah, it's things that Lisa's tried to push with our own family is just the whole notion of sitting around the table and having dinner. So we have family dinner tonight. Usually it's on Thursday nights if you want to come. There's a lot.
Bring something?
No, usually Lisa's got it.
Lisa's got it.
But it's a time where we actually call each other out for being on the phone. So, and I'm one of the culprits. So people will say, well, put your phone away. We're spending time together. And I cherish that my kids are wanting that. And I agree with what they said too, that if you would lead, that they actually want that. And actually, I think our kids are pushing us to do that more. And that was my earlier statement to say, well, what are we doing?
And then we come together really delicately with our kids. Because, I don't know, for me to go back to my house and say, we're cutting all screens forever.
Yes.
Does not go really well. Just keeping in mind that our children are having to navigate too.
Absolutely.
We have a 13-year-old that wasn't pumped about being here, and he'll be pumped that I'm saying that right now.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I've been looking for a Christian perspective on this, how to handle it. Maybe something that's been out here to help with that. And that is the preciousness of others. And when does our use of technology hinge on our esteeming and honoring others, whether it's people in our family or people outside of family? And so maybe that's the way to use technology. Use it to hinge on our estimation and value of other people.
Yeah, I just wanted to, my husband and I, right after we got married, I mean, even then, which was 9 years ago, we realized this is going to be an issue just between us, the technology and cell phones and whatnot. And so we put parameters for ourselves in, we're not going to have phones after a certain time and never at the dinner table. I mean, it was just something that, and at the time it seemed like such a huge obstacle to overcome. But 9 years in, it's the expectation in our family. And so now, and when our big kids have their devices, they know, well, those they don't even bring them in the dining room. Like, just don't even come in here with those things. So I do think a lot of it starts, as you guys were saying, from us. Because now my 26-year-old does not bring her phone to the table. And our 13-year-old just got a phone, but he knows that that's the expectation. You may not bring a phone, and the little kids, it's not an issue, but it starts with us showing that example.
I think that can even spread to other families as
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
I know when our kids have had the opportunity to have kids come and sleep over, we've always just said, that's great, but if your friend has a phone, it goes here at 9 o'clock. And that has caused some real distress for the child. And, because our child then has to kind of say, that's just the way we do it here. But it sets a tone, and I feel like that's exactly what you're saying. And then it's just this general, this is what happens at the Williams house. You either don't come and sleep over, or you put your phone on in our kitchen.
It's a fun way to kind of put point on all of the parents. Hang up and hang out. It's a little fun. We all kind of laugh about it. But another important thing that I think we need to bring up is going back to what we talked about earlier, the girls and the youth. I think that's a lot of and that road that the girl said on there, was exactly what happened to my daughter. She felt compelled to do it. Thankfully, we found out about it quickly, and we addressed son and we got him saved immediately. And I will say, as a parent, I wish at night I calmed it down a little bit, because at the time she was 13, and it was like, I can't do. Okay, so it was like the reality of our kids kind of coming into the age of technology and just knowing that that was available and how easy it happens, and it happens. So my thought is that if you have a teenage daughter, do not discount that. That is something that I feel very convicted about, to say it is real. That is exactly what happened to my daughter. Yeah. We moved here 7 years ago, and she really felt the knowledge of it when it came out in the open. He ended up passing off. So it's real. So my encouragement to you is that if you have a teenage daughter, do not ignore what was said. Please have a conversation with your children. Ask them. Be willing to let them know about it, because it is scary, and it does need to be.
And I'll say too on that a lot of times in the church or in Christian schools, we think it doesn't happen in our circles. That's bull. It's happening on this campus, and the more that we can get that stuff out in the light, the better. But it comes with real conversations, even with our students, because many times we are the parent here. And so it's our responsibility to have those conversations, even as faculty and staff and my coaches need to be having those conversations. I interrupted her. But
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the prenatal Snapchat account fad that's happening now, but we have this whole mystery of just horrible behavior happening on
one of the things that I've tried to, say to myself, but also to my kids, is like, we're living in a day where pretty much anything you do on your phone, it is not private. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. And like anything you do on your phone, you just need to understand somebody, whether it's Apple or Samsung or Mark Zuckerberg or whoever, the government, Russia, somebody, seriously, somebody's got that.
Well,
And there have been boys that, there have been kids that have gone to jail for some of this sexting stuff. It is a serious, serious thing. There's no such thing as erasing your digital footprint. Once it's there, and it's a sad thing. April, you had your hand up.
One of the things, I grew up again. One of the things I guess I can think back now and value is the fact that my mom played video games with her sister. I did the more and more popular, laptop, they have their own laptop, their own video gaming console, and their cell phone. We found ways to do things together with that technology. So yes, I'm a Call of Duty player. So guess who I play with? My son, my husband, and other online friends. My children would seek me out. My son more so than my daughter, because he's 7 years older than my daughter. I saw difference in her, but he would always want to connect using technology. Don't deny your children that, because they will continue to. Hey mom, want to play this game? Hey mom, I got you over next game of so. Stay involved. Don't allow it just to be sometimes, none of the time, or this. No, you just can't do that. Be involved, and they'll be more encouraged to share with you what they have going on. They want you to show you videos, they want you involved. That works for us.
Did you let your kids win video games? I've reached the age where my son lets me win. So I don't like that.
To piggyback both on what you said and what you said, April, is the idea that the whole privacy thing in our home, it doesn't exist on your phone. And at any moment, and this was a big discussion last night, we can say, can we not phone iPod in our house until we're 18, but can we see, what you're doing? And I think that it's okay as parents, as grandparents, as advocates for kids that might not have someone that would do this, just say, show me what's going on. Show me what are you texting? Where are you at on this? And I think privacy is overrated.
We do that. She looks at all my text messages. We share a Facebook account, which she now runs.
That's so true.
So yeah, the privacy is not, it's public between us.
So two things before we wrap up this part of the discussion is, and you may be struggling just like me, is I'm kind of at a certain point, and the young lady over there said, if you go too far back, you kind of got to ease back and get to a common ground with your kids. And for me, okay, just being transparent, we haven't gotten there yet because I haven't set limits on my own time. So this is, I think Chris talked about this, I'm wrestling with this because I'm wrestling with myself, and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I can't expect more of my kids than I expect of myself. So if you're in that seat today, it's a hot seat and you're not alone. And so I would encourage you, look at your own screen time and how you're doing that. And then talk with your kids and come up with an agreement with your kids about their online time. Again, if you go to screenagersmovie.com, they have some kind of sample contracts that you can make with your kids, something really good to think about. This has been a great discussion. And I would say, I think we can use, there's a Facebook event page for this, and that would be a great place to continue a conversation. If you didn't get your question answered, or maybe there's something you need help with, if you message or you just post on that account, let's just keep this going, because we haven't come up with all the answers today, but this is something that will make our community, if you and I work together to better ourselves in this area, we help our kids, it's going to make our community stronger. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to kind of put this event together. So thank you all. Will you give a hand to our panelists? And Karen's got a few announcements before we leave here.
Well, we want to give away some prizes. So if everyone has put their card in the basket, we won't waste any time doing the giveaway. Hannah, would you come up and help us with that, please? And Dr. White, would you come up as well? You have to be here to win. So that just really sweetens the pot right now. Okay, let Hannah pull and pass it to Dr. White. We want to keep it clean. There.
Donna Tolan.
She's right here.
We may have to vote on that electronically.
Right here. Two can become one.
What do you say, President Walls?
Give it to her.
So it's done.
Hannah, would you
Give it to him.
come on up?
All right.
Patty Holders.
I think she walked out. I think they had a new.
Okay. Opportunity is still there.
Joni Addis.
Oh, give her a hand. Okay, now I know you see decorative, what looks like giveaways on the table, but those are actually our table centerpieces for faculty development. So if the president says one more, I think we could do one more. President Fox? Okay. He's in a great mood today, guys.
Is it Rashina Teagan? Rishma.
Yay! Grab the lunch on your table.
Nice.
Thank you all so much. We want to close out with a prayer, and I'm going to ask one of our panelists, Hannah Dennis, to close us out with prayer. Hannah?
Thank you, Lord, for this day, and thank you for allowing us to be here together and to learn about this pressing issue. Lord, you have given man the ability to do so much, and we pray that in the face of all this technology, you just help us to glorify you with it and to learn how to use our time wisely. We love you and we thank you today. Bless us and keep us safe in this weather, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Maria. Good. Oh, make sure you put those back
Here, I'll go.
I'm glad you have that though. I think we didn't miss a beat. I don't think we missed a beat.
Never happened.
I don't know, I might just.